AITAH for refusing to make a birthday cake for my daughter's friend. I, 33 female, work a stressful and demanding job with long hours. Even when I'm done with my work day, I am still technically on call, so I treasure my free time. In my college days, I used to work at a bakery part-time to pay for school and picked up some cake decoration skills from the confectioner. I quit the job when I graduated, but have made some elaborate cakes once in a while in the years since, mainly for my partner or other family and friends. I lean heavily into my engineering background to make them one of a kind, but a major reason they come out so well is because I make them out of love and with the person they're intended for in mind. A few months ago, it was my daughter's, 4 female, birthday, and we had a birthday party for her where we invited some of her preschool friends and their parents. My daughter has been obsessed with Rapunzel, and for her birthday, she asked me to make her a Rapunzel cake with a tower. I took a week off of work and made an amazing cake. My daughter was incredibly happy, and it was the talk of her friend's circle for a while after as well. Last week, I was picking up my daughter from school when I ran into one of Mom's, we'll call her Allie, that was at my daughter's party. I had spoken to her briefly at the party, but that was my only interaction with her. She told me her daughter, Kara, 4 female, loved the cake I made for my daughter, and since her birthday is coming in a few days, she has repeatedly insisted on having a similar cake for her birthday. She asked me if I would be willing to make a cake for Kara as well. I told her it took me a lot of time and effort to make the cake for my daughter, and I am not sure I could accommodate it. She kept insisting, wouldn't take no for an answer, and I was running late, so I told her I'll think about it and let her know. She took down my number before I left. Later that evening, I asked my daughter if Kara is a close friend since I hadn't heard about her more than a handful of times. She said Kara is bossy and she doesn't like her, but she's friends with her best friend. I decided it wasn't worth the hassle and texted Allie to let me know I can't do it because of my schedule. She replied saying she would really like me to do it and it would make her daughter very happy, and that she was willing to pay me for it as well. I told her I understand, but that it wasn't about the money so much as it was about the time and effort involved, and I'd be happy to recommend some excellent bakeries in the area that could make a custom cake for her daughter. She said that I had managed to find the time to make it for my daughter, and surely I can find some for Kara as well. I was miffed by now, and I told her that isn't for her to decide, and that I'm just not interested in doing it or continuing the conversation. She devolved into cussing me out, and told me I was being an asshole by not thinking of her daughter's happiness. Not the asshole. Send her a quote for what you make in a week on top of a standard rate for a cake of the size and complexity she wants. And charge her an inconvenience fee as well since this could impact your job. Also, easy to see where Kara gets her attitude from. She said Kara is bossy and she doesn't like her, but she's friends with her best friend. Not the asshole based on this woman's insistence that you have the time to bake an elaborate birthday cake for her daughter. Some behaviors are learned, and that little acorn did not fall far from the tree. Not the asshole. Her daughter's happiness is not your responsibility. You told her you didn't have the time and offered to recommend some bakeries, and she got snarky with you. You may have dodged a bullet here. If you made one for Kara, you might have had entitled moms popping out of the woodwork demanding that you make a cake for little Snotfuss or little Rebecca. No means no. Well, we know where Kara gets it from now. Not the asshole. Fuck her and the horse she rode in on. Not the asshole. Holy buckets, not the asshole. To insinuate that you're wrong for finding the time for your own daughter, but not a child you've barely met, just set me over the edge. Would I be the asshole if I refused to babysit due to lack of payment? Wibta for not babysitting for someone anymore because it took 2 weeks for them to pay me? A friend of mine babysits kids in her home daily as her source of income. However, she just had a baby last week, so I'm currently subbing in my home until she is off maternity leave due to me not currently having a job. It's been mostly great, but one of the parents has failed to pay me. I kept their 3-year-old 4 days for what I thought was a more than reasonable price. I only charged $30 a day per kids. At the end of that week, received no payment. The following week, they didn't bring her to me, however they plan to bring her this week. I've had 2 conversations with them since then about how much they owe me. If they bring her to me, would I be the if I refuse to allow them to leave her if they don't pay me at drop-off? I know it's not a lot of money, only $120, but I'm a single mom of 2, and I'm not really making much money by watching these kids. The amount I charge mostly goes to groceries to feed them. Not the asshole. In fact, $30 is way undercharging. Near me, daily childcare is $80 100 minimum. You have the right to the money you earn. Think of it from their perspective. They found someone to babysit their kid for cheap. This person let them get away with not paying for that care. Now this person is willing to babysit again, even though they didn't get paid the first time for it. So why should they pay this time? That's probably what they are thinking. If you take this kid again, tell them in no uncertain terms that first they need to pay for the first round of babysitting, and this time you'll need payment up front for the next round as well. Otherwise, I guarantee it, they're gonna stiff you again. Not the asshole H. Refuse to take the child until they clear up the historical debt and pay in advance for the child. Look, this is your job, your source of income. She is using your skills and home for her childcare. Don't ever feel embarrassed about asking for what is rightfully yours. Do you have time to give them a heads up that if they don't pay they can't leave the kid? A daycare wouldn't let someone who hasn't paid drop off their kid. This is the same situation. They need to pay for past due, and I'd tell them you require upfront payment going forward due to the non-payment previously. Not the asshole. Tell them you need past your payment now and in the future. You need payment daily when they drop the child off. If they can't do that, then you're going to take on another client. This is your money. They're taking advantage of your good nature. Am I the asshole for leaving dinner after my grandparents' friend made a rude joke? So I, 25F, recently started living with my grandparents after getting a new job. I've always had a good relationship with them, and they have always been supportive of me, including when I came out as asexual. Over the weekend they said they were going to dinner with two of their friends, a married couple. My grandma and the wife used to work together and are pretty much best friends, and asked if I would like to come along. I said sure. I've met the wife a few times, but not her husband, Jay, or if I did, it was when I was a little kid. We get to the restaurant and chat. After he and his wife ask about my new job and move, they ask if I still like to write stories. I've been writing pretty much my whole life, so I say yes, and that I'm always writing something. I took good care to pronounce the T. I used to ride horses when I was younger, so I've always enunciated carefully to make the distinction between the two. Jay then winks at me and says, "How about boyfriends? Are you riding any of those?" His enunciation was very clear, so I know I didn't mishear him. I said no very flatly, but couldn't think of what else to say in response, because I wasn't expecting it. He said, "Good, otherwise you end up with a husband and kids," and winked at me again. I know that is far from the most offensive or crass sex joke in the world, but still made me feel sick and lose my appetite. A few minutes later, we hadn't ordered yet. I politely excused myself, said I wasn't feeling well, and drove back home. My grandparents and I came in separate cars. When my grandparents go home, I told them why I really left, as I hadn't wanted to make a scene at the restaurant. They told me I was overreacting, and that was just Jay's sense of humor, and he doesn't know that I'm ace. I'm not upset about the joke because I'm asexual. I'm upset because a man who's 50-60 years older than me, and one I don't know at all, to boot, made a sexual joke about me to my face in front of my family. It was humiliating. I told my grandparents that I wouldn't be having lunch with Jay again, and they said they wouldn't know how to explain that to him. I said that wasn't my problem. We haven't talked about it at all since. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Some old guy who basically doesn't know you doesn't get to ask you if you're having sex or not. I don't know why your grandparents would have trouble explaining this. What about you, Jay? Still getting erections? Or do you have a limp dick in your old age? Not the asshole. What he said was gross and inappropriate. You are setting boundaries, which is mature and appropriate. This has nothing to do with you identifying as ace, which is no one's business but yours. Your grandparents' friend is an AH, and the fact that they did not find that question distasteful is concerning. Not the asshole. You could always make him feel uncomfortable. He makes stupid, crass joke. You look at him and say, "I don't understand." What are you trying to say? Please explain. Followed by silence. No matter what he says or stutters, you simply listen. When he finishes, you say, "I don't understand." What are you trying to say? Please explain. Followed by silence. Repeat as needed. Not the asshole. You typically don't use humor like that unless you know your audience / they're okay with jokes like that, which he clearly didn't even try to figure out. Creep factor aside, it's just poor taste. AITAH for refusing to pay for my sister's retainers after I stepped on them. AITAH. My younger sister is 15 and always leaves her retainers lying around in random places. Whenever I clean, I find them somewhere unexpected. Today she left them on her very cluttered table. They must have slipped off because later I walked past and accidentally stepped on them. They were on the floor, and because they're clear I didn't even realize what I had stepped on at first. Now my family is insisting I should pay £180 to replace them. It's not even about the money for me, it's about fairness. I feel like it isn't my fault. She was careless, not me. If I left my iPad on the floor and someone stepped on it, I'd accept that as my responsibility, not blame the person who walked by. My sister says she left them on the table, but she had been moving stuff around all day and her area was already messy, so it makes sense they fell. My family is mad at me, but I honestly don't think this is my responsibility. Should I be expected to pay? Edit. Clearly an iPad was a bad comparison cause it's a big object, so let's leave that, shall we? Edit 2. Most people saying AITAH. And some people are not reading what I've said properly and jumping to their own conclusions. Thank you to everyone though. Not the asshole. This is exactly why they make bright-colored portable containers to keep them in. It is gross and stupid to leave them laying around. Maybe this will teach her some responsibility. Dirty spit retainers go in a case, not on a table. Woozy face. She needs to take responsibility for her own expensive things. It's also super gross to just leave them lying around. When she took them out of her mouth, she should have put them in its case to protect them and make them harder to lose, especially if they are clear. Her fault for not taking care of them. Not your fault for simply walking around. It could have been anyone that eventually stepped on them. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It's gross that she leaves her retainer out of its case lying around the house. If anything, this is a learning lesson for her and your parents. Not the asshole. Use the freaking cases to keep them safe. So frustrating. Mom of teenager with retainers who has broken them twice. The retainers belong in one of two places. 1. Her mouth. 2. The retainer case. If they are anywhere else and they get broken, it's her fault.